Sciopero Treni SNCF, tutti i dettagli. Anthropic lancia Claude Fable 5 e violenze sui minori in Francia, virgolette, impossibile trattare tutti i casi, lo dicono quelli della polizia. Benvenuti al notiziario di Violenze e Centrale Milano per mercoledì 10 giugno 2026 su frantoggi.com in podcasting tramite chatbot AI e in onde medie sui 1575 kHz. In redazione a Nizza Marco Ugo Barsotti, da Parigi Rachel Costa. E cominciamo con lo sciopero. Mercoledì 10 giugno nazionale dei ferrovieri francesi si mobiliterà su invito dei 4 sindacati principali, CGT Ferrovieri, UNSA Ferroviario, Sudrail e CFDT Ferrovieri, in una protesta unitaria non vista fin dal dicembre 2024. L'azione, che segna il primo confronto diretto col nuovo presidente Jean Castex, perché i dirigenti, attenzione, questo era un politico, i presidenti dell'ente ferroviario non sono tecnici in Francia ma dei politici, a dimostrazione di come questa nazione sia in crisi, peggio dell'Italia. Jean Castex è stato nominato al fine 2025 e la proposta, anzi la sciopero, mira a fermare le ristrutturazioni legate all'apertura alla concorrenza. Non vogliono Trenitalia. Secondo le previsioni della compagnia, la giornata vedrà la cancellazione di circa un treno TGV su train, indipendentemente dalla tipologia, in UI, Uigo o Liria. Sono praticamente diversi livelli di prezzo che corrispondono agli stessi treni, ma con o senza la presa elettrica, che è la grande invenzione per risparmiare sui biglietti. Per le linee Intercity il servizio sarà ridotto alla circolazione su 2, sia di giorno che di notte. Parliamo per esempio della linea Nizza-Marsiglia. In caso di annullamento i passeggeri saranno ricontattati per ottenere rimborso o cambio del biglietto. Il traffico regionale subirà forti increspature. L'Île-de-France, la maggior parte delle linee RER risulterà perturbata. I sindacati accusano l'apertura alla concorrenza di provocare un malessere poveri diffuso con incidenti ed emergenze sanitarie e sociali. Essi denunciano la perdita di 3 dipendenti per suicidio l'anno scorso, nonostante la direzione sottolinei la complessità dei fattori in gioco e neghi un legame diretto con le riorganizzazioni sindacali. Lo sciopero è stato lanciato per protestare contro le recenti riorganizzazioni del servizio ferroviario, dicono quelli della CGT, che i sindacati hanno definito responsabili di drammi umano per i dipendenti. I viaggiatori sono invitati a consultare i canali ufficiali del SNCF per avere informazioni in tempo reale. Un link agli orari, al tabellone degli orari di Parigi e di Nizza sono disponibili, anzi è disponibile su franciaoggi.com. A fare Lianna, una poliziotta lancia l'allarme sul sovraccarico del sistema. Nel contesto della tragica vicenda di Lianna, la ragazzina di 13 anni, anzi 11 anni, scomparsa nel Gers, e il suo corpo è stato ritrovato morto, quindi non vogliono dirlo, ma è stato ritrovato senza vita, una poliziotta specializzata nelle violenze ai minori ha lanciato un appello a France Info. La funzionaria, che ha preferito mantenere l'anonimato, descrive una situazione di sovraccarico drammatico delle indagini sui reati contro i minori. Prima avevamo tra i 30 e i 60 dossier a testa, ora nella nostra brigata siamo a 150 dossier per persona. Il sistema non è più in grado di gestire tutti i casi, non siamo in grado di trattare tutti i dossier, ce ne sono troppi. Gli investigatori sono costretti a fare una sorta di triage, di selezione, dando priorità soprattutto ai casi in cui la vittima è ancora in contatto con l'autore dei fatti, dove il rischio è più elevato. La poliziotta racconta difficoltà di comunicare con le famiglie delle vittime, che attendono risposte su tempi troppo lunghi. Le vittime non devono subire le nostre difficoltà. Ammette che casi come quello di Lianna probabilmente esistono in molte cassetti delle procure e delle forze dell'ordine, con il rischio che possano trasformarsi in drammi. E Anthropic lancia Claude Fable 5, il primo modello Mythos disponibile al pubblico. Anthropic ha annunciato oggi il lancio di Claude 5, il suo modello di intelligenza artificiale più potente al mondo. Dopo aver presentato in aprile la versione preview, in particolare abile nel trovare vulnerabilità in sistemi operativi e browser, e quindi non rilasciato al pubblico, l'azienda ha deciso ora di renderlo disponibile al grande pubblico questo modello, grazie all'introduzione di robusti sistemi di sicurezza. Claude 5 infatti si blocca automaticamente quando la domanda è a rischio. In questo caso il modello indirizza invece a Cloud Opus 4.8, la versione precedente più sicura, o almeno così pensano. E a questo punto, per il resto del notiziario in inglese e per l'editoriale quotidiano di Rachel, la parola appunto a Rachel.
Welcome to the news bulletin of Radio Nizza and Central Milan for Wednesday, June 10th, 2026 on Francia Oggi, in podcasting, via AI chatbot, and on medium waves at 1575 kHz. In the editorial office in Nice, Marco Hugo Barsotti. From Paris, this is Rachel Costa. SNCF train strike, all details. Anthropic launches Claude Fable 5 to violence against minors in France. Impossible to handle all cases. Weather Paris, Monte Carlo, Milan, and NY News from France Rail Traffic Hub. SNCF announces a serious disruption for the June 10 strike. On Wednesday, June 10, the French National Railway workers will mobilize at the invitation of the four main unions, CGT Ferroviaire, ANSA Ferroviario, Sudrail, and CFDT Ferroviaire, in a unified protest not seen since December 2024. The action, which marks the first direct confrontation of the new SNCF president, Jean Castex, since his appointment at the end of 2025, aims to stop the restructurings linked to opening to competition and to denounce the psychophysical distress of employees. According to the company's forecasts, the day will see the cancellation of about 1 TGV train out of 3. Regardless of type, in Neuilly, Ouigo, or Lyria, or Intercités lines, service will be reduced to 1 train out of 2, both day and night. In case of cancellation, passengers will be contacted to obtain a refund or free ticket exchange, with the possibility of using still available seats on the same day. Regional traffic will experience strong disruptions. In Île-de-France, most RER lines will be affected. On RER-B, 1 train out of 2 is expected in the north of the line, and 2 out of 3 in the south. RER-C, D, and E, at least 1 train out of 3. Suburban transports, Transilion's J, K, L, R, will be limited to 1 train out of 2, while lines N, U, and H will be reduced to 1 train out of 3. The metro, tram, and bus network should remain operational in almost normal conditions. The unions accuse the opening to competition of causing a widespread discomfort, with spikes in health and social emergencies. They denounced the loss of 3 employees to suicide in the current year, although management emphasizes the complexity of the factors involved and denies a direct link with corporate reorganizations. Sudrail reports a 20% increase in workplace injuries in 2025 and a 40% rise in absences for psychological reasons, attributed to the deep transformation of the company. The union demands include the immediate suspension of compulsive restructurings and franchising, guaranteeing equal rights for workers of the Unified Public Group, GPU, and those transferred to the new subsidiaries, as well as a salary adjustment that compensates the rising inflation. SNCF, for its part, highlights a very rich social dialogue and the signing of a dozen agreements since 2024, as well as the proposal of a share in corporate results through average bonuses of $1,750 per employee in 2026. The company reiterates that none of its 150,000 employees receive wages below 10% of the minimum wage. A round table dedicated to the union demands is scheduled for June 23rd, where management should meet with worker representatives. Despite the tensions, authorities urge travelers to postpone, if possible, train travel, relying on the relative normalcy of local public transport. Source: Economic Information Service of France Info, June 10, 2026. Fact check by GPTOSS 20B Lahaina case. A policewoman raises the alarm on system overload. Paris, June 10, 2026. In the context of the tragic case of Lahaina, the 11-year-old girl who disappeared in Florence in Gers and whose body was unfortunately found, a policewoman specialized in violence against minors issued a strong appeal to France Info. The officer, who chose to remain anonymous, describes a situation of dramatic overload in investigations of crimes against minors. We used to have between 30 and 60 dossiers per person. Now in our unit, we are at 50 dossiers per person. According to the witness, the system can no longer handle all cases. We are not able to process all dossiers. There are too many. Investigators are forced to perform a kind of triage, prioritizing especially cases where the victim is still in contact with the perpetrator, where the risk is higher. Frustration and daily pressure. The policewoman describes the difficulty of communicating with victims' families, who wait for responses over excessively long times. Victims should not have to suffer our difficulties. She admits that cases like Lahaina probably exist in many drawers of prosecutors and law enforcement, with the risk that they could turn into tragedies. In addition to the lack of staff, the officer also denounces a completely outdated procedural software, which wastes precious time on administrative operations instead of real investigations. a systemic problem. The agent avoids pointing the finger at individual police officers, gendarmes, or magistrates. It's the system that does work. According to the cited data, there are almost 3 million complaints pending, 1 million more than 3 years ago. This dramatic appeal arrives while Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin has called for a general mobilization of the judiciary to examine all complaints concerning minors after the flaws uncovered in the Lahana case. The testimony highlights a deep malaise in the law enforcement and French justice system in the face of increasing pressure from violence against minors. Anthropic launches Claude Fable 5, the first Mythos model available to the public. San Francisco, June 9, 2026. Anthropic announced today the launch of Claude Fable 5, its most powerful artificial intelligence model to date, and the first of the new Mythos class. Safeguard and limitations. To reduce the risk of misuse, especially in cybersecurity and biology, Claude Fable 5 automatically blocks responses on high-risk topics. In such cases, the model redirects the query to Claude Opus 4. 8. The previous, safer version. Anthropic conducted intensive testing and an external bug bounty program with over 1,000 hours of attack attempts. According to the company, no one managed to find a universal jailbreak to bypass the protections. Project Glasswing. In parallel to the launch, Anthropic has initiated Project Glasswing, a collaboration with Amazon Web Services, Apple, Google, Cisco, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, and other organizations. The goal is to use the capabilities of the Mythos models to identify and fix vulnerabilities in critical systems before they can be exploited. Users who already had access to the preview through this project were automatically upgraded to Mythos 5 pricing. Access to Claude Fable 5 and Mythos 5 is available for a fee at the following rates: $10 per million input tokens, $50 per million output tokens. The launch comes a few days after the announcement that Anthropic privately presented documentation for its stock market listing, IPO. It is an important step in the attempt to balance the development of ever more powerful AI models with the need to maintain high security standards. SNCF. 1 TGV out of 3 and 1 intercités out of 2 cancelled on Wednesday. Regional traffic heavily disrupted. On Wednesday, June 10, the National Railway Network will suffer serious disruptions following a national strike called by 4 representative SNCF unions. According to the communiqué released by SNCF Voyageurs on June 8, the day is expected to see, on average, 1 TGV out of 3 and 1 intercités out of 2 cancelled, both daytime and nighttime services. The measure also affects regional services. Traffic will be heavily disrupted, with particular severity in Île-de-France, where most lines will experience delays and cancellations. Long-distance lines affected include the TGV in Ouigo, TGV Lyria, and routes to European capitals, with a significant reduction in operating services. The strike was launched to protest the recent reorganizations of the railway group, which unions have described as responsible for a human drama for employees. The decision to block services aims to highlight the shortcomings of the restructuring plan and to push for dialogue with management. Travelers are invited to consult SNCF's official channels for real-time updates, check for possible schedule changes, and consider alternative transport options. Regional authorities will monitor the situation to ensure safety and continuity of essential services. Note: the article reprises information provided by SNCF Voyageurs in an official communiqué of June 8, 2026. The history of FIFA. And I remind you that today at 12:15 on Medium Wave and in podcast we have our special on the history of FIFA, the organization that runs the Football World Cup. The title: FIFA and World Football, a Century of Glory, Power and Scandals. How a Swiss non-profit organization became the most powerful actor in global sports space for Rachel for the English Bulletin and her daily editorial fact-check by GPTOS. 20B from Paris. This is Rachel Costa. You are listening to the news on AM 1575 kHz and in podcasting Rachel's editorial SNCF strike, the railway workers and the suffering of others. Here we are again. Wednesday, June 10. France wakes up with 1 out of 3 TGVs cancelled and 1 out of 2 intercités stopped at the station. In the region, especially in Île-de-France, it is practically chaos. For commuters who need to get to work, for those who had medical appointments, for families who had planned a trip, it is yet another nightmare day. The 4 representative SNCF unions have decided that it is time to make their voice heard against corporate reorganizations. They speak of a human drama for employees. Meanwhile, the human drama is lived especially by those who are not railway workers, ordinary workers, those who do not have the same power to block an entire country with a strike, because it's always the same story. The privileged on the tracks can afford to paralyze public transport, knowing that the cost will be paid by others. The employee who loses a day's wages, the craftsman who cannot deliver goods, the student who misses an exam. They, however, keep salaries, early pensions, and guarantees that in the rest of the private economy have become a distant memory. They are outraged about the reorganizations, but they do not care much about the hardships imposed on millions of citizens. Class solidarity seems to apply only when it concerns their own group. For other workers, the non-privileged, the only advice is to consult the SNCF app and make do with a car or non-existent alternatives. Perhaps it is time to ask whether this sectoral strike model, which harshly hits those who have nothing to do with it, is still a tool of struggle or has simply become a habit of power, a show of strength that serves more to remind who really commands the tracks than to solve the real problems of employees. In the meantime, the Frauen ordinary grit their teeth, change their plans, and pay the bill. As always, Koan of the day. A monk asked the master, "Why do railway workers block the tracks when they want to protest?" The master replied, "Because they know the tracks only go in their direction." The monk persisted, "But then the travelers who stay on the ground, don't they suffer?" "Travelers are like leaves on the edge of the railway," said the master. "When the fast train passes, they stir, but the train never stops for them." But let's return to the news. Welcome to the International Bulletin from Radio Nizza in central Milan for Wednesday, June 10, 2026 on Francia Augi. Com in podcasting and on medium waves at 1575 kHz. From Paris, this is Rachel Costa. Iran strikes U.S. bases in Jordan and Bahrain in response to an American air attack. Iranian armed forces have launched missiles against 2 U.S. military installations located in Jordan and Bahrain, declaring they are taking revenge for recent U.S. naval incursions in the Strait of Hormuz corridor. The attack was presented by the Tehran government as a proportional response to what they call an aggressive American assault on Iranian interests in the region. U.S. authorities confirmed that a military helicopter was shot down, but refused to comment on damage to the bases. The confrontation has raised fears of a broader military escalation in the Middle East, with regional powers watching cautiously. Experts warn that further provocations could jeopardize the delicate diplomatic efforts underway to contain the crisis and keep open the crucial trade routes for global energy commerce. Tehran targets Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan after U.S. attacks. In a series of official statements, Iran has announced that, in addition to operations in Jordan and Bahrain, it is planning actions against the military infrastructure of Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. The statement follows U.S. air attacks that struck an American helicopter in the Gulf, which Tehran considers violations of Iranian sovereignty. The Iranian Foreign Ministry warned that countermeasures will not be limited to isolated response strikes, but may include coordinated actions along the entire strategic corridor of the Hormuz. Geopolitical analysts emphasize that the move is intended to exert pressure on multiple fronts, seeking to complicate the responses of U.S.-led coalitions and to slow the flow of oil to international markets. OpenAI prepares to launch its IPO a week after rivalry with Anthropic. OpenAI has officially filed documentation for its first initial public offering, aiming for a listing by next week. The company, known for the advanced language model ChatGPT, aims to capitalize on the massive growth of the generative AI sector, competing directly with Anthropic, which announced its intention to go public in 2028. The financial market is watching OpenAI's IPO with great interest, as it represents one of the first major steps of an AI company toward public venture capital. Analysts predict that the offering valuation could exceed $150 billion, reflecting investor enthusiasm for the monetization potential of AI-based products. China's May wholesale inflation hits 4-year high, driven by war in Iran and AI boom. The data released by the Chinese government indicate that the May wholesale price index is near the highest in 4 years in recent history, reaching levels not seen in almost a decade. The rise is mainly attributed to the surge in production costs resulting from Middle East tensions, which have raised energy prices, and the rapid spread of AI-based technologies, which has boosted demand for electronic components. Chinese economists warn that inflationary pressure, if unchecked, could affect the People's Bank of China's decisions on interest rates. Meanwhile, authorities have assured that fiscal policies will remain moderate, seeking to balance economic growth with price stability. Perplexity AI plans an IPO in 2028, according to The Information. According to a report by The Information, the startup Perplexity AI, specialized in AI-based search engines, has taken the first steps toward a stock market listing slated for 2028. The company, founded by former employees of OpenAI and Google, has already attracted over $1 billion in investments, thanks to growing interest in cognitive search solutions. Industry specialists believe that Perplexity's potential IPO could mark a turning point in the valuation of AI firms, creating new benchmarks for assessing the value of conversational response and data analysis technologies. The news is seen as further confirmation of the explosive capital dynamics in the AI startup landscape. Paris and Milan weather for Wednesday, June 10, 2026. Paris, cloudy day with possible rain shadows. The forecasts updated by expert Regis Crepet at 05:15 indicate good reliability. The morning presents a very cloudy sky, temperature around 10 degrees Celsius, high humidity, and light west wind with gusts up to 30 kilometers. In the afternoon, the sky becomes more variable. Temperatures rise to 19 degrees Celsius, and the chance of rain increases to 40% with possible brief showers. The evening remains very cloudy, with temperatures dropping to 16 degrees Celsius and a slight shift of the wind toward east-northeast, still maintaining a decent chance of rain. During the night, the sky clears slightly, temperature reaches 12 degrees Celsius, the wind calms to 25 km/h from the west, and there is no precipitation. In summary, a cool and rainy day with highs around 19 degrees Celsius and lows around 10 degrees Celsius. Moderate wind and possible rain, especially in the afternoon. Milan, unstable day with scattered showers. According to the bulletin updated by expert Daniel Berlusconi of 3B Meteo at 06:42. Reliability is 70%. In the morning, Milan is covered by dense clouds, temperature around 20 degrees Celsius, high humidity and light west wind at 4 kilometers. During the morning, the sky remains cloudy and the chance of rain stays low, but with a slight upward trend. In the afternoon, cloudiness intensifies, temperature rises to 27 degrees Celsius, and forecasts indicate the possibility of isolated showers or thunderstorms, with a 50% probability and precipitation up to 1.5 millimeter. In the evening, cloudiness gradually decreases. Temperature drops to 23 degrees Celsius, wind blows slightly from south-southeast at 4 kilometers, and the chance of rain falls to nearly zero. At night, the sky is largely clear, temperature reaches 20 degrees Celsius, wind is weak from the north at 2 km/h, and no further precipitation is expected. In summary, a day with highs around 27 degrees Celsius, lows around 20 degrees Celsius, weak wind and scattered rain mainly in the afternoon. Rachel's weather editorial. When the weather becomes the new culprit for everything, it's curious to see how every raindrop, every degree of cold, is turned into an indelible proof of climate change. As if the sky had decided to go to court to testify against us. Really, how many raindrops are needed to convince people that the planet is suffering, when a simple seasonal variation would suffice to explain those sudden thunderstorms? We often forget that nature has its whims, regardless of our dramatic narratives, and that attributing every weather anomaly to a grand environmental conspiracy is more an exercise in self-satisfaction than science. In the end, perhaps it is easier to point the finger at climate change than to admit that the weather is simply unpredictable. Koan of the day. Monk. Master. Why is the sky so gray and heavy today? Zhao Zhou. The gray sky is the reflection of your desire to see the light. Or perhaps the cloud forgot its guard shift, and this is today's weather. This is all for now. From the Paris newsroom, I'm Rachel Costa. This is Radio Nisa, Central Milano, 1575 kHz.